This is Bo Cantonese Brisket Pot, a stewed brisket with a rich savory sauce that can serve as a centerpiece for a Cantonese meal. Now, you can see this specific brisket in a bunch of places, as a topping for noodles, macaronis, but today what we want to do is focus on the bo, that is, the pot. Because in a Cantonese home-cooked meal, it's often not necessarily a stir-fry that functions as the quote-unquote main. It can, but stir-fries can sometimes struggle if you really tried to push the quantity, so to feed more, stuff like steams and braises are often pretty nice ideas. But a bo, it doesn't mean a pot of braised stuff, though it can. It literally just means a pot. You can have sauce-fried stuff in a bo like jojo bo, or you can also have some soupy stuff like a coconut taro pot. A bo is a style of serving, and it's a pretty smart one at that. It's a way to keep your ingredients all sizzling hot at the table. So to make one in home kitchens, what you do is use a large clay pot or a cast iron, also good, and cook inside of that instead of a wok. Or if you need to use a wok in parts, just finish it all inside of the clay pot. Then, in a move that's probably very familiar to the cast iron obsessives out there on the internet, you serve the thing in the pot as the clay is going to retain the heat. You can also optionally keep it over a little burner on low if you really wanted to cover your bases. Then, in restaurant kitchens, a bo is also a similar idea, but usually you'd be working off of a very large pre-prepared portion with a much smaller serving pot. Then when people order, in your little pot, you just fry some aromatics, add some stuff, heat it up, finish it up with any vegetables or herbs, and maybe a little seasoning. Then, optionally, you cover the thing and pour a little Shaoxing wine over the lid for a little bit of extra fragrance, and then serve. So today, what we wanted to do was split the difference. I do know that clay isn't the most common pot material worldwide these days, so we'll first whip this up in a cast iron Dutch oven, which also totally works. But because we also have YouTube thumbnails to make, we'll then take that and show you how a restaurant might finish it in the more culturally relevant clay pot. Now, a Cantonese braised brisket usually relies on a mix of different fermented sauces, a mix that can sometimes get a little on the intense side. Ours today will be a simpler choice, but it is going to rely on one sauce that is definitely not Western supermarket available, mincy paste, which is a sort of Cantonese fermented soybean sauce. In the West, it often goes under the name ground bean sauce. And if you can't find that, Japanese red miso is a close sub, though with miso you would want to pass it through a strainer first to avoid any clumping. Either way, we'll use 2.5 tablespoons of that, and then mix it with the other not Western supermarket available thing today, red fermented tofu. That tofu is extremely available online, however, of which we'll use one generous piece, and then mix that all with a 1/2 tablespoon hoisin, 1 tablespoon sesame paste or peanut butter, 1 tablespoon granulated sugar, and a tablespoon of water. Mix well, and then set that aside. Then we'll sort the eponymous brisket. This was 1 kilo of brisket, well, plate actually, but both are quite common for the dish, cut into about 1-inch cubes. Then move that over to a dry wok, over a medium flame, and give it a nice toast until it begins to shrink and the edges just start to brown, or about 10 minutes. Then, same wok, given a nice rinse, over the same medium heat. Swirl in a tablespoon of peanut oil, and then fry up 4 cloves of smashed garlic, 2 smashed shallots, and an inch of ginger cut into slices. Once the garlic begins to brown, or about 1 minute, add in the mixed sauce. Quick stir, drizzle a tablespoon of oil around the sides of that, and then swap your flame to low. Once the oil is separated from the sauce, about 1 or 2 minutes later, toss in the toasted beef, and over a high flame, fry that all for about a minute, finishing by swirling around a tablespoon of Liaojiu, aka Shaoxing wine. Then, go in with about 1.5 liters of hot boiled water from the kettle, or about a 1/2 inch above your beef, and then bring that all up to a boil. At this point, also toss in 1 star anise, a 1/2 cinnamon stick, a 1/2 teaspoon fennel seed, and 1 dried and aged tangerine peel. That peel, by the way, was previously soaked in hot water for a 1/2 hour and then scraped off of its bitter white pith. But either way, that's all in, mixed, and and then transferred over to your stewing pot. Then just cover and cook it over medium-low for about 2 hours. And then after that time, the beef should be soft enough to be able to poke right through it with a chopstick. So assuming that you're at that point, finish it all with a teaspoon of sugar, half teaspoon salt, and a quarter teaspoon MSG. And then this can serve. But because we also wanted to cosplay restaurant for a quick second, pretending that this here was all a big vat of previously braised beef, what you do is grab a smaller clay pot and over a medium flame, first fry 1 shallot and 2 cloves of garlic, both sliced, all in a little bit of peanut oil. Then once that's fragrant, or about 30 seconds, layer over your beef stew and bring it up to a rapid boil. Once that's obviously steaming, sprinkle over a little Chinese celery or maybe cilantro, recover, and swirl that Shaoxing wine over the lid. Move it over to the table, uncover, and then devour.
So how to enjoy this pot besides eating it straight, just like a main dish? You can also have it with rice noodles. It's actually really good. You can also ladle some of the brisket and sauce over some blanched vegetable like lettuce. It's a classic. Right, we also use the briskets to make a little banh mi-like sandwich, which is actually really, really good. And of course, you can also turn it into a hot pot. After you finish some of the beef, you can add some hot water in and then start hot potting with some vegetables or meatballs or some noodles, like instant noodles. It's a classic as well. So right, check out the recipe in the description box. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon, and of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos. And that's it. And now let's not like that. And now let's eat.